Okay, 2006 Mazda Tribute. I got a power steering leak, and I'm going to try and fix it the easiest way possible. So there are a couple options. You can replace the whole thing, which is option one. Option two is you can take it apart and replace all the seals. And option three, which is what I'm hoping for, is that where the power steering line, this one, the return attaches to it, that there's an O-ring in there that I can just replace and hopefully do it in place as much as possible, and I can not have to disassemble too much. Okay, so there's a couple options here. This is a second gen Ford Escape. So on the or Mazda Tribute Ford Escape, same thing. On the first gen, the power steering pump is underneath here, where the motor mount is. So you take the motor mount off, you take this thing off, and you kind of get good access to it. However, in the second gen, it's way down here, okay? You can almost see it. So the options are take out the fans here, okay? And that entails, taking out a bunch of screws here, over here, taking out the whole mechanism that locks the hood into place. And once you pull this out, you can, I don't know if you can see down in there, but you'll get, it's not going to focus, but you get fairly decent access to the power steering pump. I don't really want to do that if I don't have to. So my other option is I'm going to go at it from the side. Okay, so we go underneath here. Let's see if I can light this for you. So there's the power steering pump right there. And you can see there's gunk everywhere. It's just leaking everywhere. That's all power steering fluid. I don't know if it shows up in the video, but it's reddish. And you can see it's dripping off the compressor there. It's not a huge leak. I mean, it makes a mess, but it's not like a huge leak. So what I'm hoping is that I can get at it if I take the compressor off, which isn't a big deal. There's like 3 screws there. And then hopefully from underneath here, I can take the bolts off just enough that I can get that one hose off. And then if I can do that, then I'm just going to replace the O-ring. Okay. And this may be a 2-part video because that may not be the extent of the leak. But if I can do that easily, I'm going to just do that and not take the whole thing off and remove it and take it apart and replace all the gaskets. Okay, so I'm going to show you the gasket kit. Okay, so here's the gasket kit I bought. And they're all the internal gaskets for it. I think the problem is this guy here, this little one. I think that's the one that attaches the low pressure hose to the outside, and that's normally where they leak. I've seen a bunch of comments online and other videos, but nobody kind of is going to do what I'm going to do. They either replace the entire thing or they rebuild it. So I got the rebuild kit just in case I need it. Here's the part number, and this is for a 2006 Ford Escape, second gen, if you need it. The other thing I did was, in case I don't need this, I'm not going to return it, I'll keep it, because at some point I'm probably going to have to replace it if it leaks, but I bought this for like 10 bucks, and it's like all the O-rings you'll ever need, and I'm sure this little O-ring here is in there, and I'll just replace that one O-ring, okay? So the reason why I'm doing this, I mean, you can buy a new power steering pump, but it's like $200 to $300, and they're like, either remanufactured ones or aftermarket ones that come from China, and I'd rather keep the factory one in there if I can, and not have to mess around too much with it if I don't have to. So hopefully I won't need this. I'll just be able to replace the one. Anyway, that's what I'm going to try. If that solves the leak, then this will be a single video. If that doesn't solve the leak, I'm going to have to do a part 2 and go all through this again and take the whole pump apart and replace all the seals in it. So stay tuned. Next step here I'm going to do is the first step before I get into the whole mess down there is I'm going to have to drain out the reservoir, and I'm going to have to remove this hose is the first thing. And then the second thing I'm going to have to do is detach this sensor and then detach this. You can see it's just attached down there so that when I do remove it underneath, I get some flexibility and I can move it around. Okay. And then the third thing I'm going to have to do is remove the compressor. So I'm going to start up top here and get this sorted out, and I'll be back with you when we get to the compressor. Okay, so I managed to drain the reservoir. I got the hose off. I put a rag in there just to stop it dripping. And then you can see here I removed the sensor and the bolt. So that's going to give me some play when I get down there. So next step is I guess I'm going to remove the compressor for the air conditioner. Okay, so I'm down underneath here, and the first thing I'm going to have to do before I try and remove the compressor here is take the belt off. There's lots of videos on this, but basically get your breaker bar and it goes in the hole here, and then you pull it back. You pull this tensioner just back with your wrench, and it loosens the thing, or the belt, and then you can take it off. So I'm going to just do that right now. Again, I'm not going to videotape me doing that because it's pretty straightforward, but it's pretty simple. There are lots of videos on that if you need to do it. Okay, so there is one bolt up top and then two bolts on the front. They are just long ones like this. Anyway, super easy, no problem. I'm going to just take out the compressor and I'm going to try and hang it somewhere out of the way. I don't have to disconnect anything, supposedly. We'll see. Okay, so there she is, power steering pump. I've got the compressor removed. Now I just tied it up here, hanging out of the way. I just don't want it hanging on the let's see if you can see it here. I don't want it hanging on the hoses, and then, you know, I have an air conditioning leak. Thankfully, my air conditioning's been great. I've never had a problem with it, so hopefully I won't make a leak happen. So here's the deal. I'm not sure where it's leaking from, but I'm going to go with my original plan, and I'm going to try and remove just, let's see if I can get this to focus here. Just this attachment here, which is where the hose, attaches to it. And there's two bolts. It's going to be different. Maybe from the other side I can show you. There's two bolts you can see that attach that hose, one on the top, one on the bottom. And, well, first of all, I'm going to clean up the gigantic mess here. But if I just remove, I think, those two bolts from the hose, I'm going to try and get my fingers in there. It's kind of hard to hold the light and the camera. But if I just remove this bolt and the one above it, I can get this off. But I'm not going to be able to, I don't have enough room here. And I think there's another attachment up top for that. So I'm going to actually have to remove, first of all, the spindle, which is just a bolt. I'm going to have to remove these two bolts here to get it loose. And then from the other side, I think I can swing it out and get access to that, replace the gasket, and then, of course, put it back, hopefully. Anyway, stay tuned. Okay, there's that off. It's literally just a bolt here. Take that off. You do have to, I put a breaker bar in here and kind of wedged it in order so that this doesn't spin when you take the nut off. But here's everything all cleaned up. So I degreased it as best I could and cleaned it up. So I'm going to try and take out those 2 bolts now. And I'm going to see here if I can get access to that part on the back here. I don't know if I can show it to you, but my hand's going to be in the way. Where these 2 bolts here, where this attaches, that's typically where it leaks. So there's an O-ring in there. I'm going to try and take this off, which will allow me to kind of get it out a little bit and hopefully get access to that. These 2 bolts that hold it in aren't a big deal, but I think there's also a bracket that holds it to the pump, which may be a little bit more difficult to get at. Anyway, I'm going to try that first before I decide to take the entire pump out. Okay, I'll report back. Okay, so I'm thinking I don't even have to take it off to replace. Sorry about the light here. I'm trying to light this, but it's really hard. To replace the gasket there, where, if you can see here, these 2 bolts where that line attaches, that's normally where it leaks. I'm going to try and just replace that. And then hopefully it's not leaking anywhere else. I cleaned it up and it's hard to tell where it leaks, but at least if I replace that, I'll know it's not that. And if it's still leaking, I'll know I have to take the whole pump out. Anyway, I'm hoping to get by with just a quick repair today, and hopefully I just can replace this gasket. Okay. So, I was just about to give up, but I got it. So, trying to take this off in place is not going to happen because it's got a bracket behind there that's attached with a T40 Torx, and I just can't get at it. There's not enough space. So, I am going to have to take the pump out. The bolts on the bottom here, there's one here and there's a couple on the other side, no problem. But there's one up top that I just cannot get to. So it's exactly like this one. But it's up top, and the issue is there's just not enough space in here to get a wrench in. And I was trying to do it with this guy, but once you can get it on, there's just no way in which you can get it off. And then the other issue is if you try and put this on it, you just can't get it in there because the hard steel line that comes in front of the bolt, and you just can't, no matter which way you try and get at it, you just cannot get at it. Okay, so what worked for me was this tiny little 10 millimeter I had, and just because it's bent a little bit, and I was able to put it on backwards like this way, so I got just enough leverage to get it out, and I mean, it was a pain because obviously it's not a ratchet wrench. If you had a flex head ratchet wrench, maybe that would be the idea for this one, but mine aren't flex head, so I just could not get the leverage in there. Anyway, I got the top one out, so the bottom ones I've already had out. It's no problem to get that out. So unfortunately, I've got a dinner appointment with my wife tonight, so I am going to... Oh, that one bolt I've been messing with for like 2 hours trying to get out, but now that I know how to get it out, it's not really that bad. Anyway, I'm going to have to continue tomorrow, and plan is to take the power steering pump out, in which case I get better access to this part, and I'm going to replace the gasket for that, because I think that's where it's leaking from. When I cleaned it all up, you can see it's all nice and clean, but when I loosened that bolt and it started to drip, it comes down here, it comes down here, it comes all over the place. So it really looks like that might be it, I'm hoping, because I don't, at this point, really want to take the entire power steering pump out and rebuild it if I don't have to. But I don't know, depends. Tomorrow, how if it's super easy to get out, I may just do that. Okay, so success here. We have it out. So the bolt in the bottom is easy. The bolt in the top was really hard to get out, like I said. But now I was able to get access here. Ooh. See if we can get my finger in there. Anyway, you can see that bolt hole there. That was where the T40 Torx went. So now this is loose, and I just have to remove these two bolts. And then I'm going to just replace the gasket in here. It's just an O-ring. So at this point, I'm almost considering taking the whole thing out and rebuilding it because I have the kit. But maybe. So in order to make that happen, this is loose because I removed it from up top, so it'll just come out, no problem. This is not going to come out because it goes all the way up over the engine and back down to the steering rack. So I would need to remove this, which is going to be extremely difficult because you can see I don't have a lot of room to work in, first of all. But second of all, now that it's loose, even if it was in place, I would never get to it. There's no way to get to that there. But I need to get a wrench on this and then like somehow hold it to loosen this, and that's going to be a pain. But that is essentially all that's stopping me from removing the whole thing. But I think at this point, now that I'm going to replace this, and I'm going to put it all back together, and if it doesn't leak, I'm going to call that a win. If it does, then it must be leaking from somewhere else, and I'm going to have to remove the whole thing. But now that I know how to do it, it's probably, instead of being a 4-hour job to get to this point, it's probably a half-an-hour job. But anyway, that's where I'm at with that. Hopefully this is going to help someone else as they... Okay, we have success here. So this, I've got it off. This is the O-ring that I think is the problem. I'm hoping is the problem. I'm just going to replace that, put everything back together, and hopefully it won't leak. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, you know, I've come this far. Why don't I just take it off and rebuild the whole thing? Well, that could introduce other problems. So it's not really that hard to rebuild, but I've never done it before. So I'm going to just deal with this here and hope that's where it was leaking from, because that seems to be the common point. So anyway, you can see what it looks like when you get that off, and there's the O-ring, and I'm going to hopefully find one that I have that's the right size. Okay, so everything's back together. I just replaced the one gasket, which is where this like return line connects to, and cleaned everything up with brake cleaner, turned the car on. Everything looks like it's not leaking, but it was a slow leak. So we'll see. There may be another part 2 where I take it all apart again and have to rebuild the pump. I'm hoping I don't have to do that because I don't really want to mess with the insides of the pump if I don't have to. But I'm hoping just that one seal is the issue. A lot of people report that that's where the leak comes from. So I dealt with that. So to fill it back up, you obviously put this back on, fill it back up, and then you want to get both wheels off the ground, and you want to just do the steering wheel, not with the car started, but the car just like, you know, turned on but not started. And you want to go from lock to lock 2 or 3 times, left, all the way right, all the way left, all the way right to bleed it out a bit. And then start the car up for a second. Check your fluid. Make sure it's good. If so, you're probably good to go. And, you know, once the car's started, you can do a couple more lock to locks and just make sure you flush any air out. That way, it may take a little bit of time for all the air to get out, but that's a good way to do it. And again, you don't want to just leave the car running with no fluid in here, because what will happen is you'll get air in the pump, and then that's going to, you know, basically explode the pump. So you don't want that. You want to get all the air out and do that. So anyway, everything's all cleaned up. I got I got, oh, I don't know if you can see it up in there, but it's all back together. It's on at the moment. It's dry. I cleaned it up with brake cleaner. I tried to clean everything up around, so I don't see any leaks coming out. I hope that was it. Anyway, there may be a part 2 or there may be not. I'll report back in the comments down below how it went a couple weeks from now, but hope that helps somebody. The one other tip I could give people, if you do want to take the whole thing off, instead of just leaving it hanging like the way I had it, is on top, the high pressure line, the metal line that goes into it, is extremely difficult to get off. And you just cannot get enough leverage with it once you've removed it to get that top nut off. So what I recommend if I was going to take it off again, and I'm going to take the whole pump out, is I would get like a crow's foot. It's a 24 millimeter at the top there, and I would get a, oops, sorry for my finger, I would get a crow's foot wrench, because there's just no room in there. And I think that would be, before I took all the other bolts off, I would crack that on the top with a crow's foot and a ratchet with an extension on it, and then that would be how I would go about it. And then I would take the rest off. Taking the rest off, as I said, most of the bolts are visible except for the top one, which is extremely difficult to get to. And the only way I was able to get to the top bolt was with a very small 10 millimeter wrench, a box end wrench, and I got it on there, and you can just enough to crack it, and then move it a few times, and then get the rest off with your fingers. So it is possible, and you don't need to take out the radiator. But tips are, get yourself a crow's foot 24 millimeter. I think that'll help get the top one off. And secondly, 10 millimeter small box end wrench will get the top one off. Everything else is straightforward. There are no other problems in getting it off, other than the low pressure hose that goes into it. There's 2 bolts on it. You take those off. I think they're 10s or something. No problem. That's easy. But there's a bracket that holds it on to it, and it's a T40. So you make sure you have T40s. I didn't have any T40 wrenches to get it off, so I ended up having to borrow some from a buddy down the street, which luckily he had some. But that's it. Everything else went pretty good, and at the moment everything looks dry. I cleaned it all up, and I'll report back later.